Hello my dear friends and welcome to StudyIQ. I am Joy and today in this lecture we will discuss about tax revenue and also about the record GST collections by the government. So what is the current affair? Coming to the current affair, the Finance Ministry has recently released numbers on tax collections and GST has registered all-time high according to the data released by the Finance Ministry. So with this increase in the GST collections, it is hoped that the economic growth will further accelerate in the coming quarters. So economic growth in terms of GDP. So we will understand this in detail. In this lecture, we will discuss about what was the record GST collections and how significant it is. What are the highlights of the tax collection during this last financial year? And what has to be done more in order to increase the tax collections in the country. So this is a very important topic from both your preliminary as well as mains examination point of view. You need to know about some of the concepts of direct taxes, indirect taxes, GST, etc. in your prelims. And for your mains, it is very important to understand what is the current status of GST collections and what improvements can be done in the GST collections in order to increase the revenue or the tax revenue of the government. So very important topic from your UPSC perspective. We will discuss all the issues related in detail. But before we begin, this is our channel StudyIQ and we are providing pen drive courses for various competitive examinations including SSC and bank courses, UPSC optionals, SSC JE courses, teaching examination, railway examination, defense examination, RBI grade B, NABARD grade A, UGC NET, UPSC Civil Services Examination, CLAT exams for various state PSCs and also for various professional courses. You can visit our website www.studyiq.com for more details or you can call to any of these numbers for more information. So let us start. As we said in the beginning, the Finance Ministry has released numbers on the tax collections with GST registrations, and according to the numbers released by the Finance Ministry, it is the all-time high. And we will see what are the highlights of the numbers released by the Finance Ministry, and we will also see how it has an impact on the economic growth of the Indian economy. Now let us first understand about the income tax or the direct tax collections. So if we look at the direct tax collections, it has shown a negative growth rate. This is because for the first time in the history of income tax returns, the number of returns filed dropped in financial year 2019. So in the financial year 2018, the number of income tax returns filed were 6.74 crore, but in 2019 it has dropped to 6.68 crore. So this indicates a diminishing effect of the demonetization. So the effect of demonetization has diminished. And the income tax compliance has also been lower in 2019 financial year compared to the past few years. So this concept is very important because this is for the first time that the income tax returns filed or the number of tax returns filed has dropped and in financial year 2009. If you have seen your previous year UPSC preliminary questions, there will be statements like there is a steady increase in GDP, steady increase in unemployment rate. Such type of statements are very common in your UPSC preliminary examination. So here, since this is the first time that the tax returns filed or the number of tax returns filed has come down, there is a chance that UPSC can ask you a statement question regarding the income tax this year. So you must remember that this is for the first time that the income tax returns filed has dropped. And the ratio of the actual filings to registered filers dropped to 79.1% in financial year 2019. But in 2018 financial year, it was the highest or the all-time high of 91.6%. And against the revised estimates, the overall direct tax collection in financial year 19 fell short by 50,000 crore. So this is the situation with the income tax or the direct tax. Now coming to GST, which is an indirect tax, we will understand what is the situation. The indirect taxes, that is the GST collections, were around 1.13 lakh crore rupees in the month of March 2019, and this is the highest recorded since the tax regime was introduced in July 2017. So in case of GST or the indirect tax, we see there is an increase or a positive impact, and in case of income tax, which is a direct tax, there is a negative growth rate. There is a strong collection over the last 2 months in case of GST, and this is an indicator that there is an increasing compliance with indirect tax laws. So if you look at 2018, the same period, there is an increase of around 10% in 2019. So this shows that there is an increasing compliance with regard to indirect taxes. Now coming to the reasons why there was an increase in the GST collections. The first reason is that there was an increasing compliance among the business as a result of push by the tax authorities to widen the tax base. So tax base here means that the number of taxpayers. So tax authorities has taken many steps in order to increase the tax base, and as a result of this, there was an increasing compliance among the businesses, and this led to higher tax base, and higher tax base means higher tax revenues. So the GST collections also increased. And second reason was the tax cuts by the GST Council. So GST Council in its previous meetings had cut down on many of the taxes on many commodities. So when there is a tax cut on commodities, there will be a reduction in the prices. So when there is a reduction in the prices, the demand for the commodity will increase. So by cutting the GST tax rates, the GST Council was creating a demand or increase in the aggregate demand in the economy. So the sale of certain commodities, the volume went up, and that led to higher GST collections. And third reason is that there was a rush to pay the tax arrears at the end of the financial year, and therefore the seasonal factor has also contributed towards higher GST collections. Another factor was the enforcement actions taken by the tax authorities. So in order to collect more revenue from registered taxpayers, enforcement action was also undertaken by the tax authorities, and this has helped in filing more returns, and therefore the GST collections increased. So these are some of the reasons why the GST collections had increased in this financial year. Now coming to the significance of improvement in the GST collections and thereby tax revenue of the government. So if we look at the growth rate of the economy, the growth rate of the economy was 8.2% in the first quarter, and in the second quarter this growth rate came down to 7.1%, and in the third quarter this again fell to 6.6%. So we will see that there is a reduction in the growth rate in the economy. So with the numbers released regarding the GST collections, there is now more hope that India will be able to maintain the growth momentum in 2019-20. This is because the tax revenue of the government has increased, and also GST, which is an indirect tax, means that if GST collection increases, there is more consumption, more demand in the economy. So with more demand, there will be more production, and more production will directly contribute to GDP, and this is how the growth momentum can be maintained, and an increase in the growth rates can be achieved by the economy. And secondly, higher GST collection means that higher revenue for the government. So when the revenue of the government increases, this will cool down the pressure on the fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit is an excess of government expenditure over government revenue. So fiscal deficit can be brought down by two ways. One is increasing the revenue, second one is decreasing the expenditure. So here, when the GST collection increases, the revenue of the government increases, therefore the fiscal deficit will come down. So these are the two important implications of a higher GST collection, and let us understand what is the way ahead or what has to be done. Now, what government can do is to expand the tax base again, that is to include more number of businesses into the tax regime of GST. So when the tax base increases, the revenue collection will also increase, and this is applicable in case of the direct tax collections as well. The number of individuals paying direct taxes should increase. This is increase in the tax base. So when there is an increase in the tax base, definitely there will be an increase in the revenue collection as well. And secondly, government should also take steps to simplify the tax regime, especially the GST or the indirect taxes. So simplification will help in increasing the tax base, thereby increasing the tax revenue. And also to encourage more compliance with regard to GST, there must be efforts from the government to ease the tax regime for the small businesses, so that the small businesses or the small firms will also remain in the GST tax net. So this is all about increase in the GST tax collections You can find the PDF of this lecture on our website. You can also write to me at joycey.studyiq@gmail.com for any of your queries, and you can follow my Facebook page for more video updates. Thank you.